Hey y'all, it's Casey, and today I was inspired to share like a testimony about my story and my life. I'm kind of nervous because I've never really been like super candid about all of the details, mostly because there's been like an insecurity of feeling like, well, one part's like, you don't have to share everything, but I was reminded this morning that part of my reason for being here is to share what has happened in my life and how I have changed and been inspired, and the goodness that can come whenever we can really look inside of ourselves, and some people will call the word God, but to get to know who you really are and your own value. And again, I'm with Oakley, and so he'll be in the background talking to me. We're sitting outside. Anyways, and I also would say hi. Sometimes I would worry about saying this telling everything and being candid, because I would feel shame or embarrassment because of what people may think. And then I was gently reminded this morning that I'm not here. My life isn't here to serve the people who have it all together and are perfect. They don't need my help. So this is for the people who may be struggling like I have before. And it would have been really nice then to have somebody, and there have been people whenever I was struggling, that could speak to me and help me see the truth of who I really am. And my story starts with, I guess as like a little girl, my life seemed to be really good as a small child, and I didn't think there was anything wrong. My parents did get divorced when I was 3, and then that was I remember that being really hard because I was the daddy's girl, and then we left. My dad struggled with addiction, pain pill addiction, and I think pretty much anything he could get his hands on, prescription pill wise. He really struggled with that, and my mom didn't want us to grow up in a house like that, which is I totally understand. So she left, and we moved 3 hours away. But my daddy would come to get me every. He would drive 3 hours there and then 3 hours back every weekend, every Friday, and then take me back on Sunday 3 hours and then drive back 3 hours. So from a young age, I can remember feeling like I had value and worth because, my mom was good about letting my dad see me, and my dad did that every single week, and he never missed. He never didn't show up, and he made me feel important. And that was a really strong. It solidified me as a person, as a female and a woman. It really did help me in life to know my worth and my value, especially when it came to relationships with men. And so from then, just like it was like, I guess it's just like a thing. When we moved away, my dad ended up dying when I was 18. By then I'd started, I never really had like crazy relationships with men. I always had, if I had a boyfriend, it was always like a solid thing. I wasn't like promiscuous, really super promiscuous, thankfully. But what I started to struggle with was because of, I guess, moving away from my father, and then just like things happening in my life. I had like a hole, empty place, and I never knew what it was. I also felt like there was something that I was here to do, but I didn't know what it was. It just felt like there was like this nagging feeling of knowing that my life had a purpose, but everything that I thought about doing in life didn't seem like it was it. I mean, I went to college. I played tennis for 2 years. I had an athletic scholarship for 2 years, and then I went to a 4-year school. But school, I loved being with people, and I loved having fun. That's when I started partying a lot. But I never felt like I could never pick a major. I would pick something, and then I would start. I'm like, I can't do this for the rest of my life. It was like I was searching for my value, what I was supposed to do out in the world, trying to make myself fit into a world that I was never born to fit into. So feeling out of place, being super sensitive and empathetic, and feeling like you have a purpose, but you don't know, and you were born into a world that you don't fit into, but you try to make yourself fit into, like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. And so anyways, that pain of feeling that way, and it made me feel so lost. feeling like I didn't fit in, and I wasn't valuable for the world. I started to like drink, party, and that was like my college career, partying, taking Adderall so we could stay out and study and be skinny and all these things, because I wanted so badly to fit into the world. And so those are the things I did. Then when I was in my last year at Alabama college, I found out I had met my husband, who I'm married to now, who was like we were like fell in love like at first sight, like my soulmate, and we were like madly in love. And I found I was having Tucker, my firstborn. That was like a big reality check, because I was still partying and having a good old time, and still lost as to who I was. But that I was so scared, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to be a mom. I don't know if I can do this. And I remember we had a conversation, because I don't know if I can have a baby. Like, I'm young. I'm only 22 years old. Maybe 21. I think I was 22. And Zach, because we were so in love, Zach was like, it's going to be a mixture of me and you. Like, it will be so wonderful, you know. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I can do this. But I was terrified to tell my family, because it wasn't like in the plan. That's not something you plan to happen when you're still don't have a degree, you're not married, and you don't have any of the things in order like we're supposed to. And so anyways, we that was a big shift, because Zach was still young and wanting to party and stuff, and I was like left. I felt like alone. He really did great. I mean, there were times where he still wanted to do stuff, and it would make me so mad. But it was just a big change for both of us. It was a needed change. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. But then after I had Tucker, I started to, it was like after I had him, you get prescribed pain pills when you have a baby. And I started taking those because it made me, like I noticed that I just felt good. Like I felt, and I had dabbled with that kind of in college some, not a lot, but I just felt like, okay, I can handle this. I still don't feel like I have a purpose except to be this mom, and it's really hard. I don't know how to do anything like I'm supposed to, but somehow taking the medicine would fill that hole, would just kind of like numb that out to where I could just do the things that I was supposed to do, and just kind of drift through without feeling too concerned about my not fitting into this world. And so I would continue to do that, and then I would take Adderall. It wasn't like a full-blown addiction at this time. It was just like maybe on the weekends or here and there, and I could get like a bunch of cleaning done. And I was also, after I had him, trying to go to school and working, so I was just trying to do so much to survive, and that, if I was taking Adderall and stuff, it would help me to do it, because it gave me like energy. And but it started to like, there was like there's a dark side to it, because whenever you're using it when you don't need it, it's like you become where you feel like you have to have it. When you don't have it, you don't have energy, you're moody, and it started to affect like the chemicals in my brain. I would be depressed, and all these things came from the abuse of that. It was physically, it was terrible. So then I'm doing that, and I remember on Mother's Day, I had gotten an Adderall from a friend. I was going to take it to like clean or do something, who knows. And for some reason, I felt like I might be pregnant, and I took a pregnancy test, and I was. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just gave I gave that pill back to the person. I was like, no, can't do that. So then I was like really sick and depressed because I'd been taking Adderall, and I had to stop. That was really hard, but then I started to feel good once the time went by, and I had, I finally had Brinkley. It was good, but right after having her again, I started dabble on and off with the pain pills, because they prescribed it when I had her. I nursed her for a long time, and when I quit breastfeeding, that's whenever I really got deep into having like an active addiction with pain pills, and it was terrible. It was the most awful thing, but I know now the reason I did that's because I did not feel good enough. I did not feel like I fit in this world, and that something was really wrong with me. Not anything was wrong with the world. It was all me. And that was the only thing that seemed to, and it was like this horrible battle because I didn't want to have to rely on that, and I hated it, but it was like I would feel like I needed it, and then I would take pills or the medicine, and I would feel so bad and so guilty. It was like a struggle between, like, my soul. It was at that level where I just struggled. I would cry. I was so sad, and I just trudged along. I just kept going. Okay, so after it had gotten so bad where I felt like I was physically dependent. If I didn't have pain pills, and most people don't really know this, like even my family doesn't know this, I would be sick, and I couldn't hardly take care of the kids, and that's whenever I decided, somebody told me about another medicine to get on that helps you get off pain pills. So I went and got prescribed this at the doctor. Okay, so this medication, I didn't really research it. The people I talked to just raved that it helped them so much, but they didn't tell me that it's addictive too. And that when you get on this medicine that you might not be able to get off. And at first I didn't think about that. It just helped me not have to like look for medicine on the streets. Like asking friends and people I knew, or try to go to the doctor to get stuff, and so I started that medication. That medication became like a chain that I carried around, bolted to my leg. Like I was in shackles to that medication because once I had been on it for so long, I took it for like 3 years. You physically cannot. It's like almost impossible to get off of it. It felt that way. I would try, and I would be so sick that I thought I would need to go to like the hospital. And the withdrawals don't last just like a day or two. They last like weeks. So I just cried and cried all the time. It was the most terrible thing. And that's whenever I found out I was having Oakley. Now, during all this time, I was a yoga instructor. I'm like kind of living a hypocritical life because spiritually, I was working on myself spiritually, but I was still bound to this physical thing that I felt just, I was in shackles, a prison. Anyways, when I found out I had Oakley, I knew I didn't have the strength to do this alone, but I knew that I had to do it. And I asked my higher power, God, whatever you want to call it, light, love, please show me the way. I can't do this on my own. I've tried to figure my way out of this, and I can't. I didn't tell the doctor. I didn't tell anybody what was going on with me because I was ashamed. I was so embarrassed. I felt like the worst, guiltiest, most horrible person on the planet. And look what I was doing to this baby when I just found out I was pregnant. So I started just looking online and researching people who had been able to get off this medicine, and I just started reading, and I started just praying and learning that I could do it in a safe way. And I know that I wouldn't recommend ever doing this. I would say just be brave enough to talk to the doctor. I didn't have that bravery at the time, but what I did was I immediately weaned myself down to like as low amount as I could, and then I went lower, and I just got comfortable being uncomfortable but not sick, just where I was kind of uncomfortable, and I went lower, and I finally got to where I was on it was like non-existent amount, and then I just jumped. I quit, and I remember it was the hardest thing. I felt so bad and lonely and guilty, and it's just like I can feel that feeling because it was the hardest, most difficult time of my life, but I did it. I didn't do it on my own. I could have never done it on my own. I tried forever to do it on my own, but it was only by the grace of God. So then whenever Oakley comes, he's perfect. It's just another sign from God that everything, that I had not done anything wrong. Everything I had done was because I felt like I was wrong or bad, and that I didn't fit into this world, and that it was my fault. But I learned that now. I discovered that I wasn't created to fit into this world, and that's okay. I mean, and none of us are. We're here to create a new earth. And I just wanted to share my testimony because I feel like there's probably somebody who's dealing with something similar. Whatever you feel like is holding you in chains and shackles. And I hope that you have the courage to face it and just ask your higher power to whatever you want to call it, to come into your heart and help you to face it and give you the strength that that you can have. Because if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I just want to say that I'm so very grateful for the life when I look back at those terrible dark times, I know that I went through those for a reason, because my dad struggled so much with that. Now I can understand. Like, sometimes I used to be like, why couldn't he just get better? Why did he have to keep doing drugs? And now I see how hard it is, and I understand. And I feel like by the grace of God, I broke those chains, those shackles for myself and for my children, so they won't have to face this, and they won't have to go through the pain that I did. And it's only by the grace of God that I had the strength to do that and break those generational curses, is what I heard a friend say today. But those things, those curses that you carry, that they call genetic or whatever, that you continue to battle, and it never, nobody ever faces it, and everybody just continues to live with it. You have the strength and the power within you if you just ask. You just ask for it. Sorry that I'm so emotional. This is still very, I've never really shared that publicly, and nobody knows, but I know that shame and embarrassment won't keep me quiet anymore, because I wasn't created to be quiet and to be ashamed and be small. I'm here to share my story and my life and inspire other people, and I know that's what I'm here to do. I love y'all. Bye.